Sounds like our delivery drone.
I'm on it.
Just, check the box underneath for the toolkit.
I swear to God, Andy, if it's empty again...
That was one time. Trust me, you'll be dicking around with landmines soon enough, Mac.
The siege of the town? My notes suggest it lasted for 2 weeks. How could that be?
Divine intervention.
Pardon me?
No, just the weather. Got in their way. Weeks of thick cloud cover blanketed the town.
I'm still not sure I follow.
It prevented the army from calling in Cass. Soon as that cleared, though, well, you know about the cluster strike. Good. Toolkit's here. See you later, little buddy.
What's that?
Nothing. Just, talking to myself.
Okay, little buddy. Sure thing.
Hey, how are you getting on?
Not bad, not bad. Our gear's finally arrived from dispatch. I can start deactivating mines and leftover ordnance now.
Oh, right. And do you do that by hand?
Sure do. Crawl up close, identify it, and then just, disarm the thing.
I'm sure it's more involved than that.
Yeah, well, I may have skipped the part where, it can explode.
The army's offensive against the town. It seems like, well, a disaster, to be honest.
Yeah, they never imagined the guerrillas would put up a fight, that's for sure. The mines on the road caught them off guard, immobilized their armor. They took heavy casualties from mortar and MG emplacements, too. Some even blamed the Army Command, said they gifted the enemy time to organize.
The leaflets.
Right. It was a tough call. Complying with the laws of war, it's got a price.
Those earthquakes you mentioned, weren't there some fairly bad ones not so long ago?
Nothing too major. The worst came during NATO's invasion, actually. Solid 4s and 5s on the Richter scale. The soil out here is pretty loose, though. Folks were worried about gas lines getting damaged. Turns out they were right to be. Gotcha.
You mentioned that IDAP worked with a local mechanic. How did that come about?
Hollywood might call it serendipity, but I don't know. He just saved our ass one time, and then another, and so the story goes. There wasn't much special about his setup, but guy knew the difference between a crankshaft and a tire iron.
He was good at what he did then?
There wasn't much he couldn't fix. Never asked for a receipt, though, if you know what I mean.
Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't IDAP and NATO share some common goals? The training, for example. The laws of armed conflict?
Sorta. It's a tough one, actually. It was important we didn't overstep the mark.
You had to be impartial.
Precisely. In a conflict, we have to remain neutral, a partner to all parties, even those that, personally, we may object to. You know, when I joined IDAP, we were a pretty small outfit.
And how many countries is IDAP active in today?
Now, we're pretty widespread, 50 in the global south alone. CCB, DRR, you name it, we provide aid and development for more than 60 million each year.
If you don't mind me saying, Nathan, you sound... I don't know exactly.
Look, it's great we can help so many now, just back in the day, it wasn't so much politics, you know?
I've been meaning to ask, after NATO pulled out, when CSAT stepped in, how did that affect your work?
Day to day? I mean, Coinop stepped up, but honestly, things are already sliding that way, even with NATO at the helm. For the most part, CSAT were mindful of our activities. Brutal, no doubt, but at least clinical. Whole thing felt like one big PR exercise for them. Whole families, you know?
What's that, Nathan?
Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Old habit. Just this whole mess.
The war.
Everything. I focus on my work, get the job done, but now and again, it's hard not to think. What happened to the folks here? You know, Alexis' house, his workshop, it was like something from another time.
I'm not quite sure I follow.
Pounding of a hammer, back and forth of a wood saw, I don't know. Things felt simpler back then, is all. Far cry from what was to come. If there's one thing I remember about Alexis, it was the guy's pickup truck. Thing made a hell of a racket.
And his brother, wasn't he a mechanic? Why wouldn't he fix it?
Oh, believe me, he tried. But that was Alexis, stubborn as a mule.
How had things deteriorated so quickly? I mean, Altis, it's not exactly third world, yet food became scarce.
It's the little things. A local delivery stops, trawler is damaged, farmland gets mined. It's an almost imperceptible but fragile network. So when war comes, things just fall apart.
So, Nathan, may I ask, when you first came to Oreo Castro, what were you doing there?
IDAP asked me to give some talks on landmines.
Talks? Who with?
Anyone who'd listen, really. It was all about raising awareness. I remember there used to be a cafe here once. Local place. Actually, that's an understatement. I must have picked up more local curse words there than the entire rest of my time out here put together.
It sounds like quite an institution. Did it shut down when the fighting started?
Eventually. The guy who ran it, he didn't have much love for the government. I remember he used to charge the local soldiers double, called it a tourist tax. And one night he was bundled off in the back of a truck. Never saw that guy again. Going back to what I said about the people here, their support for the guerrillas, sometimes it was a lot more than food and water.
What, guns?
Yeah, even after the government troops arrived, garrisoned their mayor's house, folks were still doing all they could for the cause.
My understanding of NATO's actions, particularly against the guerrillas, it's patchy. Maybe you could help fill the gaps?
Sure. Well, aside from the odd direct engagement, it was mostly aerial support, drone strikes. Of course, that all came from the airbase, the one on Stratus.
I see. Not Altis.
No. Even before they were forced to leave, their presence on the mainland didn't stack up to much. Those guys at the outpost, the ones murdered by the guerrillas, they never even got a shot off.
How come?
Not sure. I mean, it all happened at night. Big thunderstorm, heavy rain. But there are rumors. Some even claim the attackers were wearing army uniforms.
I see. That would constitute a war crime, no? An act of perfidy?
Yeah, but after the executions, in for a dime, in for a dollar. Well, you were one sneaky little bastard. Now, what were you hiding upstairs? There's an old photograph here. Picture of Alexis and his brother Markos.
The civilian killed at the church? The landmine, right?
Yeah. Although honestly, it was a small miracle he'd made it that far.
Tell me more about Markos.
Poor guy. He always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He'd made it through the airstrike, but only to get caught up in the assault that followed right after.
There were still guerrillas in the town, even after the strike.
Mm-hmm. But Oreo Castro, it wasn't just a town. It had become a symbol of the resistance. It was important for both sides, and government forces were making their final push. Alexis had made it out, but his brother? Like I say, Markos was always shit out of luck. The guy had been waiting at his brother's place. Markos had been wounded, caught in the leg by shrapnel.
I see. Do you think he went there to talk his brother into leaving, or to join the cause?
Injured, unarmed, alone, he set off towards the church.
Tag the sniper! Right up ahead! I'm covering, go! On the move! Move 75 meters. Cross.
How bad were the casualties in that engagement?
The defenders were completely wiped out. Both sides, they must have lost at least a dozen men.
Contact! Soldier!
An hour or two later, the government sent a truck to our camp. The soldiers searched the civilians for hidden weapons.
But they didn't find any.
No, and we'd already checked. It's vital our camps are weapon-free spaces, safe havens.
And Markos, he must have made it through then.
Yeah, just about. We talked a few times after. I don't know, he seemed different.
I can imagine why. And what did he do after?
Hard to tell, but like I said, he kept looking for his brother.
Of course. And Markos, his body, is still there in the churchyard?
Yeah. To think he survived all that just to return to the same spot less than a year later.
Nathan, you said that Alexis had been a recruit in the Altis Armed Forces.
Yeah, that's right.
So, his decision to leave the army, to join the guerrillas, do you know how that came about?
It's funny, I asked Markos the same thing once. He just looked at me and shrugged. Later on, I heard their father had been killed in the Civil War, but I don't know. Whatever his reasons, Markos seemed to have made peace with the fact he wouldn't change his brother's mind. It's strange to think kids once played here.
I assume the town was evacuated at some point.
Oh yeah, early on. Many folk left as soon as the ceasefire started to fall apart. Others fled when all those leaflets came. Just a handful of people were here for the end. NATO's been busy. Even managed to clear out a few mines. Special type, too. Very distinctive.
Remnants of the firefight. The one you've been telling me about.
That's right.
And Alexis. He'd been there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just met a guy claiming to have known him.